And if nobody replies, I'll be alright.
Hey everybody, so The Weatherman and the Search for the Sun is finally out now, and as a lot of you know, it's based on a short story that Eric and I actually wrote. If you haven't read that yet, I would recommend doing that first, because in this video I'm going to break down a couple of the leitmotifs that we used throughout the whole album to convey what was going on in the story. So let's get started. First up, I have the prologue pulled up here. In the very beginning, you'll notice that there's this back and forth going on between the vocals and ambient piano. Those piano bits are actually leitmotifs. The very first one is the Weatherman's. If you want to hear that a little bit more isolated. So that's the most basic, simple version of it that you'll hear. And then immediately after that are the lyrics, "Come step into the light." So following those lyrics is actually the leitmotif. Well, you get the idea. Is this next one? Alrighty. And next, I want to jump to the end of the second verse, actually. Right after the lyrics, "But you want to save everyone," we actually hear those leitmotifs again right here. So if you listen carefully, you'll notice that it actually starts out as the Weatherman's and then turns into the leitmotif. This was just kind of our way of like throwing in a little foreshadowing for what happens at the end of the story. So next, we're going to look at the Weatherman, actually. The first pre-chorus here, right after the lyrics, "Can anyone save us from ourselves?" This is what you hear.
Can anyone out there save us from ourselves? I refuse to lay over at...
Now you notice it sounds different because it's in an entirely different context, but it also sounds a little bit more complete now because that electric guitar part comes in at the end and it kind of answers the question that the original motif poses, if you will. That was just kind of our way of representing like the Weatherman's optimism despite how horrible the world is really at the time. Like everything's in chaos. If you read the story, you'd know that. And a similar thing happens again at the second pre-chorus, right over the lyrics, "But maybe there's another way."
Maybe it's better to hand over all control, but maybe there's an used to lay over and die without being given the...
As again, just showing his resolve. It's like a constant back and forth between like wanting to fix things and second guessing yourself because it's hard and takes effort to constantly be a force for good. Now there is another instance actually right at the end of the solo. It's a little bit more subtle, but it is there. If you have a keen ear, you probably spotted it. If you want to hear that a little bit more isolated. I'm going to look at Thunder and Lightning next. This song kind of imitates a conversation between the Weatherman and the sun, so we kind of reflected that by including leitmotifs between song sections to indicate who's talking. So this first one is actually this melodic guitar part here in the beginning. Right there.
So many people...
So if you have a keen ear, you'll notice that right in the middle of that is the Weatherman's leitmotif. Except in this context, this beginning bit is in Mixolydian, so to my ears anyway, that sounds a little bit more like mature and warmer sounding, which is, again, us just kind of reflecting where the Weatherman is at in his journey. Similar thing happens in right before the second verse, the string section and flute part, flute by yours truly. Yep, so that's just another variation of that. Still recognizable as the Weatherman, but just a little different to fit into how this song is kind of swerved into direction. Next thing I want to look at is actually this breakdown at the end here. You can hear the Weatherman's leitmotif, but part of the way through that, the leitmotif actually layers in on top of it, like this. Again, that was just kind of us reflecting. This is basically the climax of it. Everything's kind of falling apart and falling into place. And yeah, this is just what the Weatherman does at this point in the story. Now, I did also want to point something out. So right here, I have nighttime and prologue just back to back. That's what it sounds like. Would you look at that? It loops. Go figure. If you notice, there's also kind of that like beeping going on. That's actually Morse code. And because I'm a nerd, I included a little hidden message, if you will. Although I may have gotten a little carried away with how difficult I made it to understand it. So let me actually open up and show you guys what's there. There you go. If you're really determined, you can probably break down just from the waveform over here what that looks like. So this is the prologue, the beginning of it. This is the Morse code. And then at nighttime, here's what this looks like. So there you go. If any of you are nerds like me and are interested, there's a little hidden message there. It's like kind of the thesis of this whole thing. So it might be interesting to look at, worth looking at. So that's all I wanted to cover for today. If you want me to do more stuff like this in the future, let me know. I will take any opportunity to nerd out over music stuff. If you have any questions, statistically speaking, you probably have my phone number, so just give me a call. I don't know. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Yeah, I don't know. Take care.
The death of the song.